So I was asked to do a tutorial on Adobe Illustrator. I think that was after talking with a few people, that was sort of the program that people really wanted to see how to sort of quickly move, or to move quickly. I'm going to split your infinitive. To move quickly through figure preparation in the way that looks professional and nice. Okay, so I have actually prepared some screen recordings, and I was just going to put them on YouTube, and I wasn't too happy with how they turned out. So I'm going to just sort of do it live, and I'm going to let you guys interrupt me. Oh, that coffee's cold. Oh well. As we go along, what I will say though is you should head to the OneDrive. All right. In the OneDrive research folder, there's a folder for software. And these are, yes, I'm recording this right now, yes. And I'll make this available too. I'll put this on the YouTube after I edit up all my mistakes, so it looks like I did this perfectly. And you'll find all of our 100% legitimately purchased but oddly cracked software, right? And in it is the Adobe Illustrator for PC, the 2019. This is one of the latest, and for Mac, if you have a Mac, also 2019. I installed this on my Windows 10 virtual machine on my Mac and launched it. It worked fine. You do have to, I would recommend, turn the Wi-Fi off so that if you keep it connected to the network while it installs, you have to create an Adobe ID, which I don't think makes any difference. But if you turn all the networks off, this doesn't harass you about that, and I think that's cool. So you do that and you update, then we will be using the same software. And the reason I want to encourage you to update is because most are using 2016, which does not have a proper crop function. The newest version of Adobe now has crops. You can crop images just like you would in Photoshop, right? And so that's what I'm going to be using to sort of illustrate the idea that how to trim images. You can create masks, and masks are fine, and you can still use masks, but I think those are more for creating, special crops. Crops are still geometrically square or rectangular. Cropping and masks, you can make heart shapes and circles and all kinds of crazy stuff. So let's start, okay? All right, so what you probably are used to seeing, and what you're used to doing is most people want to make their data in Excel. So this is some very lovely data. It's a little regular. Maybe just find a little. There we go. This is good data. I guess it's missing some axes, and that's all fine. We can fill those in. But here's some plotted data in Excel, and it's got colors that I like and stuff like that. And my preference is that you use one of the software packages that are available on the OneDrive, right? But I appreciate that for most people, you do not need to calculate or use that to do kinetics analysis. You just want to make charts. And Excel makes terrible charts. So you have to go and modify them. So let's use this one as an example. You can edit and copy this image and drop it into Illustrator, okay? And the first thing you do is start new, right? And we will pick some sort of print. We're going to go over here to width. We're going to go down to inches because in America we still use a system invented in the Bible on how to measure stuff. So it's inches, and you want to pick a width, right? A half column figure is 3.5 inches. And a full column figure is 7 inches, all right? Now I'm going to say create a half width figure 3.5 inches. And it's going to create a new, well, in theory, it should create a new artboard somewhere. wonder if this is like crashed or something. There it is. Okay. This is going a little slow because its screen is recording. All right. So this is 3.5 inches, and you can actually tell how big the artboard is by going over to this little button, the artboard tool, and clicking here, and you can move it around, right? 3.5 inches. That's half. It's zoomed in 324%. If you scale down to like 100%, then you see how big it'll fit onto on a sheet of paper. And in a minute, I'll sort of illustrate why 3.5 is sort of where you want to be. Now I've created my 3.5 inch column figure, and then I can just Control V or whatever it is on the Command V on the Mac. I don't know what it is on the PC. Control V, I want to say. And then you bring in your file, right? And Excel brings in a bunch of crap. All right, it has a lot of things you don't see. There's this like white background. There's a border somewhere, and essentially what it does is it imports things as sort of like a PDF, and it includes a lot of tools to hold stuff together. And the fastest way to remove tools so that you can start manipulating things individually like that is to release everything called clipping masks and all those panes. So you can select all, select the whole thing, and you go up to Object, and you can come down to Clipping Mask and Release, which is on a Mac Command Apple 7, but there'll probably be a hotkey on your PC. You can just hit that button over and over and over and over and over again, and now the entire image is basically manipulatable. You can now move things out of the way. This white background is unnecessary. This is unnecessary, whatever that frame is. And you're down to basically what I would say you want, right? You have the data, and you have there's probably some more little weird blue frames that are going to pop in and out. Those are just import things, right? And I know what this data is. This is DLS data. And I know that this corresponds to 10 nanometers, 100 nanometers, 1,000, and 10,000. And then this data actually goes down to 0 nanometers. And it for whatever reason, in the process of creating this data, or these data, we decided we don't need 0 to 10 nanometers. It's just a distraction. You can actually get rid of parts of these things you don't want. When you want to get rid of data points, you just go up to this tool. So this is your big selection tool. And then there's this direct selection tool that allows you to select individual points. If you highlight that right up to the border, it will highlight the individual data points, okay? When you delete it, that'll truncate your data to where you want it to be, all right? So now it's all pretty well highlighted. You'll notice that in some points, if I zoom in, like the data point is on top of this line. You go back to your big selection tool, V, and you highlight that path, and you can actually transform to or arrange in front. And now you have a nice line again, okay? So now I've trimmed the data down to what I want, the data that goes from 10 to whatever on it. You'll also note that these are sort of unevenly spaced. So these two are close together. That's really far apart. And that's on the baseline. You can just select one and then use your up arrow to sort of get it off the baseline. And in some cases, with this data in particular, I don't think it's that big of a deal if some of these overlap. Because, you know, the point is really it's about to get clarity of data, not necessarily struggling with formatting. If you want to sort of bring these things down, that's totally fine. And what you do in order to make them all look visually appealing is highlight them all. Okay. And then there's this option to distribute them automatically. And my distribute automatically is obscured by the stupid thing, but there's these buttons up here are distribution buttons. And because you're going to distribute it based on a baseline, because hopefully you have a nice baseline, if you click vertical distribution, you can watch what happens. They now all move in concert, and they're all very nicely distributed. Now, you can also come up here, you can change the color, right? You can change all these things. You can change their properties. You can come in here if you need to, if there's some reason that you want to add, say, dashed character, you can pop open this line stroke guide and add dashed lines. You can even add asymmetric dash lines so that you can differentiate it. For instance, if you have the same data just at different time points, and you know it's going to be printed in black and white, obviously picking colors isn't helpful, so you can introduce dashes or other ligature marks. That'll help differentiate it. The lines now can be, you can change the colors. And what we do with colors in our group is we pick UTD colors. And aside from the sort of branding and school pride and sort of getting us and our name out there kind of stuff, the colors are high contrast. They're not primary. Orange is not a primary color, and green and blue, you know, those are one of them is a primary color. But there are very few people that have a form of color blindness that can confuse those colors. And if you go with like primary Crayola box colors, people like red and blue, and that can be confusing to some people with mild forms of color blindness. And more so than that, these sort of off colors are very, they're not jarring, right? So you can pick one of these. You can go in here and you can pick whatever, a purely, so this is CMYK, so you want to make it a pure cyan color. It's sort of up to you whether or not you would consider that to be more contrasting or more high visibility than this. In my mind, picking colors that are that have more or less hue associated with them. There's this whole lot of color theory, but the point is, go with UTD colors to differentiate. Don't go with Crayola box colors. So the secondary colors first, and then you can do primary or do dashing. Okay, so that's the first. Yeah.
So I had a question with like, if you have like fluorescence data or like things with a dye on it that are a certain color, would you color them according to the spectrum?
Very good color. The question. Yes. You want your colors to make sense, all right? This is DLS data of colorless stuff. So you can be free whatever you choose. A color has to make sense and it has to be consistent. If this is your proteoliposome with nothing done to it and nothing in it is orange in this color, then every other figure it needs to be orange. It has to be consistent. Colors are not just to make your figure look pretty, they are part of the story. If you're doing something that involves Fitzy, you really need to pick a shade of green. Don't pick green, pick olive, pick forest, pick one of the sort of, you want to broaden your Crayola box, right? Go to the 128 pack. Pick a shade of green and pick a shade of magenta or red for your other dyes. But then you have to be totally consistent. Everywhere you use that same color when you refer to the spectra or in a figure. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, excellent. Now we go to labeling. All right, so normally you would import this with some kind of label, right? And importing labels in Excel can be hit or miss. So I can take this thing and copy. I don't know if you guys have ever had this problem where you copy and paste and all the numbers are all garbage. If you have, there's a pretty simple explanation for that. Excel and Microsoft and Adobe use basically different font sets. Calibri is a Microsoft font. And if you try to import Calibri into Adobe, it might vomit on you. Arial is actually usually works, but not on a Mac. On Macs, you have to use Helvetica. And Helvetica is basically expensive Arial. Literally, Helvetica is a font that people charge money for, whereas Arial is a generic form of font. And you can bring in then this scale, which I'll just bring in as an example of some things that you can do and can't do when you talk about scales. All right. Now I have a scale here, and it's really tough to select because Excel has imprisoned me with a bunch of, if you click on it, you can even see clip masks that are associated with all these things. Again, if you highlight and release all clipping masks by just slamming your keyboard to release clipping masks with that short key, you can now highlight the text and drag, and I can put them there. And that doesn't match. So what you might be tempted to do is just go, there we go, right? Except this causes a problem. All these fonts are now stretched. I know they're stretched because if I go over to my character map, I can actually see how much they're stretched. They're stretched in this direction 125%. That's fine. I just have to type 100. And now that stretching is fixed. And all these are set more or less to be size 9. That's fine. You know, these fonts can be size 8, I think, will work, but no smaller than size 8. And yeah, so that all looks all fine. So now it's back to normally stretched, normally regular Helvetica. And again, Arial is also fine. I barely can tell the difference between the two. Position your number where you would like it to be. So in this particular case, I want it to be in the middle of this tick mark. If I really want to be picky about it, I can take this tick mark by going to my direct selection tool, directly selecting that tick mark and selecting that number and aligning them up here. Well, that didn't work. I think the problem is that, all right, so that's an example of something I'm going to edit out so I look like I know what I'm doing. It's really hard for me to see up here because of this thing, but that's okay. This is possible to do quite by eyeball because the middle of anything is this little adjusty bit. So if you come over here and you set it roughly in the middle, all right, that's good enough for government work. You can actually now go over here, select this feller, line it up in the middle, and now you select all your numbers, and you can align them through the middle, align them through the center, I'm sorry. Now they're all evenly aligned, and then distribute them through the middle, and now all the other numbers are distributed in the middle of, on front of the tines, okay? At least I assume they're called tines. I don't actually know what they're called. Picks, points, I don't know. All right, now you got your numbers. Now we're going to have a title, and this is going to be size, and it's going to be nanometers. Nope, not nanomolar, nanometers. And this is Myriad Pro, which is disgusting. It's going to be in Helvetica, and that's size 8. What you want for these sorts of things, you can keep them the same size as that, but to differentiate the titles, let's make it bold. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now here's a problem, right? Because you want to resize this. If you want to resize this, it's going to change all your figures. So if you proportionally shrink it, your figure sizes all go down because I want to add a size over here, which that's somewhat irritating. If you want to refigure your letters, you can go to Select, Object, All Text Objects, and that'll highlight all your text objects. And you can come back down over here, and you can return them back to 8 points. You'll notice they're no longer aligned quite like you like them, but this process for aligning them now, you know, is now pretty easy. Move them to where you want. That is not such a huge deal that they'd be super centered over the tines. It's super hard to tell if they are or not. You align through the center and distribute, and they're back to normal, okay? And this should be aligned with the bottom. If you highlight the bottom and you highlight that title and you align through the center, it'll align it and it will move that. But if you look super close, you can move it back. And now your scale is aligned perfectly with that. Your numbers are now aligned perfectly with the tick marks. Your data now is in a reasonable color scheme and formatted nicely, and you just need to add your text here. So we're going to say that this is relative intensity. I assume I spelled that right. And you notice once you've started text in Helvetica, now it'll default to whatever it is you want. All right. You highlight that, and you get a little turny bit because you want to turn it 90 degrees. If you hit the Shift key and rotate. It will rotate it conveniently at 45-degree increments. And then you can bring it back up here and align it with the center. And if it doesn't give you a little purple intersect, because these little purple things tell you you're aligning with something. If it doesn't give you that, then just go ahead, select that and that stroke and align through the center. And again, zoom in and make sure that you are at where you started. And that is good. I like that. Now, there are a couple ways to delineate the data here. All right. So sometimes it's appropriate to have a legend, and you have space up here to put a legend, right? You want to make a legend, and you want to keep this. Go up here to your direct selection tool and just directly select a small wedge of that data. All right, and then you copy and you paste, and this gives you a bunch of little lines that you can use now to. Well, that one got cut off. So you would want to fuss with that one. I don't know why that one's shorter than the rest of them. This is a problem with maybe the data, that not with the manipulation. So you'd want to check to make sure that that ends in the appropriate measure. I don't think it matters for DLS data that it doesn't go out exactly to 10,000. But the point is, you now have this, all right? So these are now going to be your legends. That's what you want to do. I'm not a huge fan of legends, but you know, so every once in a while, that really is the best way to describe data. And these you can asymmetrically stretch, because who cares? It's a line. And if you want to make it a little shorter, that's okay. You want to make it a little bit narrower, that's okay too, right? That gray is really going to annoy me, so I'm going to individually stretch it so it intersects there. Okay. Now you can your legend, and if you want, you just hit T and you can start typing. All right, and so these are all size 8. That's sort of where your sort of minimum is. You can sort of realign them. You may have to readjust the. Sometimes they get really annoying. You may have to readjust this height so that you can now put these here, and then you can just center them and align them with your alignment. That's vertical distribute, center align. And sometimes this little guy does a pretty decent job of aligning, helping you align them. Sometimes it does not. But not too bad. All right, that's one way to do it. If you have very short titles and they can fit, just bring them down onto the data. All right, this is the fastest way to read data, is having the actual label down there on it. So if at all possible, even if you have to hit enter or spread the data out, or spread the, so like if this were, for instance, TMV heated, that's much longer, and this were, you know, that were actual lore ipsum, then, you know, that's not going to fit here, but there's no law that says you can't just hit return and raise that up. Okay, and with this one, return, go here, raise it up. All right, and then select them all. Now there's a couple of center features. You can center the text, and then you can align to the left. Now they're all left aligned. Bring them over to the end of the data. Boom. All right, and that, maybe it depends on what you want to look. Reasonable people can differ about whether or not these are too close to each other. That'd be a discussion, I guess, about figure formatting. The last thing is you can bring this bar back down so that it's not really higher than that line. Now you got a really nicely trimmed, very pretty figure. All right, and now that it's all made, I want to expand it so that it fills the whole size. Select object, same object. We're going to pick text objects. We're going to make sure these are all size 8. And then we do our alignment all over again. Okay? Which you can do relatively simply. That's irritating. Put that there, put that there. Distribute along the bottom. Distribute along the bottom. And suddenly, honestly, these don't look so bad. In fact, I can put them there, align them. And now I think that looks actually, the labeling actually looks pretty decent. Okay, does anybody have any questions about the graphs? You can also change the stroke thickness to lower that thickness. No questions? Cool. All right, so usually you have a figure.
Sorry, I actually have a question. So for the y-axis, it's customary not to have the title is enough.
Well, this is these are multiple data sets that are distributed up and down the y-axis. It wouldn't be appropriate to put numbers here for actual intensity because
I see.
yeah, because this would be 1, that would be that past 1. If there are certainly instances where this would be a numerical axis, and this would be included here. And in that particular case, you would also include it. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
So another thing that you frequently probably will encounter are images, right? And you'll get images that look like this. And these images are essentially chaos, right? Because that one's that size. And it's got a border on it. And this one is this size. Let's just pick this one. And it, oh, no, let's try that again. I don't know why this one's so tricky about that. Wait, which one do I want to pick? Yeah, let's pick this one. I have no idea why there's a black bar under there. That's fine though. These are 2 different sized images, and you really can't have 2 different sized images. And they're different in both X and Y. And if you try to shrink this down, right, to make them the same width at least, now they are almost, they're very close, but they're almost different heights. In fact, if you really look at it, I've got to get rid of that little black bar right there. Oh, it's grouped. Oh, that's probably why. So sometimes, wait, let's put that button there. What is it grouped with? It's grouped with a border. All right. So if I go here and I crop this image, so I get rid of that black bar. In fact, I don't even want all that gray space. I just want to see this liposome right here. I can go and magnify all that black spots there, and boom, now I have 2 really different sized images. I can try to make them the same height, and they are almost the same width, but that's not super what I want. I want them to be the same width. Cropping, the problem with cropping is it's destructive, I think. You can't uncrop your image. If you do a other option, which is to go and add a mask, you can uncrop your images. You can adjust. So clipping masks are a little bit more forgiving. You can make a clipping mask, and when you make a clipping mask, you can now drag your line, and that sort of does the same thing. It makes it clipped, right? But the image is actually still there. I can still move the image around inside of the clipping mask. I can isolate the mask, and you can see the whole thing is there. I think clipping masks are far more trouble than they are worth. And so I really don't use them. If I over clip, you want to just make sure you stay in the, you err on the side of making sure that your crop is the same size as this. And you can just look at it. You go up to here, the width, I'm just going to make this 1.5 inches. And then the height is 1.276 inches. So I can go down here. I can go crop image. And what did I say the width was? 1.2 something or other? Oh, I wish I had a memory that was better than like a tadpole. I was thinking 1.27 and 1.5. Doesn't sound right. I have to write this down. Width 1.5, height 1.27. So I can go in and change, I'm going to crop it down to some value that is, that looks good. So that's 1.5, so that's the same height at least. 1.27. Yeah, that looks pretty good. If I proportionally stretch it, then that's okay too, and I'll show you what I mean. There you go. Because now I can just do this. I can select that. That's width is 1.5. If I come up here and make my width 1.5, and it should now be exactly the same height and width as this one. In fact, they should be totally superimposable. Okay. Identically sized following cropping. If you're more comfortable with making a mask, cool. Now they need to be fill the whole size here. You cannot, because this has a scale bar down here, you cannot adjust a width using this asymmetrical approach. You have to always do symmetrical stretching, okay? And if you select these and you symmetrically stretch them so that they fill up the contents of this frame, that looks pretty good. Something else you can do if you're interested is add a stroke to the image. So you pick your image, you go to, let's find our image appearance. It's a little sun, add a stroke, and say a 2-point stroke. This is a weird way that Adobe does strokes. You notice I've made a 2-point stroke and nothing has appeared, which is really dumb. Because you got to turn the stroke from an invisible line into like a rectangle. Convert to shape rectangle. It's really ridiculous. And then it does this, so it's relative. It goes 0, 0, boom. Now you can manipulate the stroke and make it as thick or thin as you want without having to make some sort of weird box. You can do the same thing here. I've made a 5-point stroke. Yes, that's right. I've made a 5-point stroke. That's weird. That's a very big stroke, but that's fine. Convert that stroke into a rectangle. That's huge. Your extra width, get rid of the extra width and the extra height. Okay, and then probably not a 5-point stroke, probably just a 2-point stroke. That's too great. Okay. I do have to make a nice new scale bar because that scale bar is too small. So find your scale bar, draw your line across the scale bar. There you go. Black is fine. Make the stroke thick so that you can kind of cover up your old scale bar. And there you go. And go to type, and you go 500 nanometers. Good. I don't know where the scale bar is for that one, but you will hopefully have one there ready. So that should be good. And now you just put in the letters. So we're going to call that A, and these should be size 10. And this should be size 10. B, C. All right, so these are now all size 10. B should align with A. And now C should align with B. There, and align through center. Oh, that's distribute. That's the wrong one. Oh, I already magic of mine. All right, and then you look at it, and like you have to make a decision. 8 is the minimum font size, right? It doesn't have to be 8. Like you can go here and, you know, adjusting the fonts is, once you know how to adjust everything, it actually isn't such a big pain. Like making it 9 instead of 10 really doesn't add a whole lot of extra effort. You just move your figure so that they're centered. And I am totally okay with you eyeballing that and then just distributing them through the center and then aligning them through the middle. And making sure this is centered with that. Yeah. And then that's, that to me looks a little better. I don't know. It's sort of up to you in some senses. I mean, ultimately, like, you know, I'll tell you what I think, but I think that that looks much better. I'm gonna do a vertical line. That knocked my bar out, so I have to move that bar back up. And then you can do a real quick test just to see what this will look like in the, so let's go up here, blank document, create, and just really quickly Google. All right, that's just filler text. And we can see what this looks like. It's just sample what it looks like, just highlight it, copy, Control C, and move it in. It tends to make pretty big files, so you don't necessarily want to do this all the time. You can plop it into space, all right? And so that should be 3.5 inches if we scroll up. Yep, 3.5 inches. And we want to make it wrap. You highlight the thing, picture format, and just do text wrapping. Nope, square. And yeah, I think that looks okay. You know, maybe I'd go in and actually make these fonts a little bigger. Maybe what I would do even is highlight this and move the data. So here's something you can do with a chart, right? A chart can be asymmetrically moved as long as the numbers follow. And if you do that, then you can move that there. And you can move that, say, all the way out to there. Go to object, type, or no, you want to go select, object, all text objects, because now all the text is all wonky. You come down here and you find that there's some text that are stretched in the horizontal. Just you want to make sure those are now 100% because you don't want those to be actually stretched. And move that back, right? So this is pretty much it. Aside from just like farting around, this figure really would have taken me maybe 30 minutes. And now you give it to me, and if I find something I really don't like, it's very easy for me just to pick something up and say, you know, that's not my favorite orange. I think I'll go with that color, right? Now it's super easy to manipulate everything. So that's been an hour. So I don't know if I want to bore you anymore. Was this informative?
Extremely.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other aspect of this you want to see?
I had a question.
Oh.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Olivia.
So like if you have a flow chart, like say this lorem ipsum curve, if you wanted to fill it in with a color, like you know how flow you normally fill it in with a color, can you do that on there?
Flow chart. Do you want to email me an example?
That's okay.
No.
I was saying like, no, yeah.
I'm not sure. You know what? I would do one more thing. I'm gonna for the people that do synthesis. Let me just really quickly show you what I can do with some ChemDraw. So we have sort of an established. Yes, Michael.
I guess, well, to answer Olivia's question, what you can do is you can copy and paste the, like, for flow, you have it shows the line graph like you have right here in figure A, and you can copy and paste that, and then fill it in, and then use opacity at 40%.
Oh wait, you mean the flow data from the FPLC?
That's what you're asking, right, Olivia?
I'm talking, yeah. Like if you're trying to fill under the curve.
Well, you can take this and actually
Like an uptake graph from Flow CT.
Yeah. So
not the CD stuff.
Yeah. So
like that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, wait, how'd you do that?
And you go to fill. You know, it depends on you having a good baseline, but
oh,
you can then fill this. If you really want to make it look very nice, so obviously there's probably what you would argue 2 things in here. That is a data processing issue because you need to have 2 peaks in order to separate them. You could hand draw 2 peaks in here. I don't know how scientifically accurate that would be, but yes, it's totally possible to then fill these with a kaleidoscope of gorgeous. Oh, that's don't mix orange and blue. Jesus.
And then for flow, I think they usually use opacity to kind of put it behind, like you can see the graphs within each other.
yeah.
So, and you can adjust the opacity. And now you can see the figures behind them. For flow, they're usually bunched up even more, right? So you highlight, if you hit shift and an arrow, it moves things much faster and only in one direction. Yeah. So now I've got 2 peaks on top of each other. I just highlight that one and I go to opacity and say 57%. And now you can kind of see what's going on, right?
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Wait, I had a quick question just about putting that in text. Is the general rule for the font size that you want it bigger or the same size as the text?
Which text are you talking about? This stuff?
When you put it into the Word doc.
This.
Yeah.
So the fonts should be relatively similar in size.
Okay.
So depending on the, well, there's a couple of things. ACS uses a font called Arno Pro, which we don't have. Like they have purchased the rights to Arno Pro, and you can use it when you're using one of their templates. And Arno Pro is 9 points in a normal publication, and 9-point Arno Pro looks like 10-point Arial, I think. So like the point sizes are super relative. You know, they're almost meaningless. Like if I just take this board, right, and I decide like make it an arbitrary size, and then I can just make this, you know, like I'm editing in this. I think, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a size. Now this font size is 28, right? So if you were using this sized artboard and you were going to use size 10, like when you copy and paste it, it would be like size 2 in your copy and paste. Does that make sense? Like font sizes are extremely, extremely relative to all of the size of the artboard, the type of font. So the best thing to do, honestly, is just decide, you know, really, there's almost no reason to go below size 8. Pick something above it, and then you just copy and paste it into the text. And if it looks weirdly out of place, like these fonts are too big or too small relative to your text, go back in and change them. All right. So I'm being a little hesitant in saying there's a hard and fast rule for font size, because sometimes that's not. It's just depends on the font. It depends on the font it's going to be around, and all kinds of stuff. All right. But I would say as a general rule, fonts smaller than 8 don't come out very legible.
Okay, that's good.
All right. Now, if you do ChemDraw, actually, I'm just going to delete this because it's still 3.5. And if you do ChemDraw, I wonder if I've got any recent, open recent. What is that? I'm a little nervous to click on that. Cool. All right. So here is a complicated, I think this is, I don't know if this is in the group template. So if you're making chemical structures, you should always go and structure object, apply object settings from other, and then there is set defaults. And then there is the defined object setting from Topsint style CDs. Everybody has to follow that. All right, that's our own personal group's web font. And then you can zoom in. And what's cool about this sort of editing thing is you copy and paste it, and you can plop it down here. And 100% of this is like editable, right? So now you can shrink it up to your height you would like. And if you go up here, select object, text, it selects all the text object. If you wanted to do something like make that text a bit bigger, say 8, you know, 7, 6. So this is where your font rules sort of run crazy, is your fonts and your chemical structures can be small. If you wanted to, say, make some of these sticks green, you go pick a green color, and you can modify your ChemDraw to some extent in Adobe. I think it's easier to modify it in ChemDraw, but the point is like, you know, you can do all kinds of cool stuff that make it easier. You can make the backs of these more opaque by deleting your structure. Ambiguous letters can just sort of be moved a bit. You know, I think it's a bit easier sometimes to do the final touch-ups to chemistry in Adobe Illustrator, because you can get your arrow, like the arrows in ChemDraw are fantastic, but editing them is not. Editing them is a chore, but they are vector images. So if you come in here and you add I don't know if I did that right. I think, yes, add a path. So no, I didn't do that right. I want to add anchor point on the segment path. Okay, so this isn't the segment path. So adding an anchor point is going to be a pain. But you can still modify the arrow, make it thicker. And I'm pretty sure if you screw around with it, which I don't really want to, you can end up making, oh, there it is. Sort of different shapes just from that. All right. So that is that. Oops. Any questions about that? Is there anything else specifically you want to see in Illustrator? Nothing? Am I still logged in? Are you there? Am I here? Hello?
I can't think of anything else right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
That was very, very helpful. I can't express that enough.
Okay, well, it is fairly straightforward. You can find objects on the web, and if you want, you just come here, and you have to remember that sometimes you have to crop and clip. It's actually really easy, and if you want to make some little lines and add some strokes to it, and to sort of differentiate, say, make that stroke and then give that an arrow pointing to the kitty. Also super, super simple to do. Or you can just copy paste arrows in from ChemDraw if that's what you want to do. So that's it. I'll declare a victory here, and maybe next time I'll go over, I don't know, you guys can tell me what to go over, Chimera or Blender or something like that. I don't know if you guys saw my new Blender file. Did you guys see it?
Yeah.
I made some Blender images for the desktop for Fabian's project, but he made a better image than I did, so it made me sad that he beat me. He made a really nice one, but I think mine's really pretty too. So I just made this in Blender, proteolepisome, and pretty powerful editing tool. So, okay. If you have any questions or anything, go ahead and ask them. Otherwise, you can go ahead and log out, and I will see you guys later. Okay.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
You're welcome. Bye.
Jeremiah, real quick. I wanted to talk about the I-Core, the regional program thing, real quick. It doesn't necessarily involve the group, but if Fabian wants to stay, because he's also involved in
Yeah,
that.
I'm here.
Okay.
So
About
it looks like the researchers work as a team in the program. So when we're applying, are we applying as a team with one project?
Well, we don't have to apply as one, I don't think, cohesive project. I have to actually look into it since you guys both have different projects, but I don't think so. I think the workshop is, let me clarify if we can go there with two different projects where we can sort of develop how you would create a startup around some new MRI contrast agents, and how you create a startup around MOF-coated vaccines.
Yeah. And then, because another part of it was, I have the email in front of me, but it says right to practice intellectual property. So is that like meaning we have a project that is exclusive to us, like no one else can work on it, or I don't know what that
The
necessarily means.
idea is to create a startup, and to make a startup, you should have something that will become IP. What Fabian is doing has IP associated with it, and we can add more. What you're doing, we've never filed a patent, but we still have time to file a patent. Just nobody's ever expressed interest in developing like a commercialization approach to the contrast agents stuff that we're doing. But we still have, I think, 8 months to file a patent. You have a full year to file something before you don't get any protection at all after you disclose it. So yes, you both have projects in which there's IP or potential for it.
Okay, because we were both gonna apply today, but I didn't know if we need to apply with like the same. There's a section in the application for your project, and I didn't know if we needed to apply with the same project or not.
You know, you would think it would make things fairly more simple if you just went under the same project. Because the point of the program is not that, it's to help prepare you to market your stuff as an entrepreneur and try to raise, this alpha venture capital, not just from the NSF, which actually is great. Like the NSF gives you not a ton of money, but it's like no strings attached. Go make America great with wonderful small businesses kind of money.
Yeah.
But this core does prepare you to go talk to to investors and to other companies so that you can flesh out a business plan to actually bring your stuff to market. And you need to do that before you can really talk to serious investors, because investors, investors don't know science. If you can bullshit them about the technology being awesome, they'll believe you if you're enthusiastic enough. But they do know business, so you do have to sort of get your business plan buttoned down.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was what Theranos, right? Utter junk science, but great business plan, great business strategy, at least on paper. It definitely made some people rich for a very short period of time. So there you go.
Hey, Jeremiah. If you're not busy after, or if I have some data to show you, if you have time, or maybe we can meet later on.
I was thinking about running in to get the camera because it makes me nervous to be there. But, are you gonna be there for a while?
Yeah, I should be here probably for another three hours. I don't know how long. We're doing an encapsulation for the flow again. So I think we'll probably be here for another 2 or 3 hours.
All right, I'll probably zip out there. I want to get home. We got a creek behind our house that my kids want to explore more, so I'll make sure that they're happy, or they'll tear the house apart.
Good luck.
Yeah, so I'll turn up in a little bit and you can share. Is this the ELISA data?
Yeah.
Is it confusing or cool?
It is. It's not. I think it makes sense, but it's not like everything showed up the same.
Oh,
Everything's 100% no matter what. And I did a LPS control, and LPS is showing up positive as well. So I think everything is just buying to the LPS.
okay. You have to get rid of the LPS then. Huh? How do you do that? I don't know. All right, well, that is sort of the. Is that the data? Like it's 100% across the board?
Yeah, across the board.
Okay, well, we'll just have to edit that part of the manuscript out. And I don't know. That's fine. And that we've done the experiment, so we know. So we know our approach doesn't disprove anything, but we don't want to make any sort of heavy points about it being thermally protective without actually showing it. Does so.
Yeah.
We can imply it, I think, down because we see, pretty robust response even with a heated E. coli. And it's maybe protecting the antigens, but it's, yeah, we want to be careful on how we present that. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Well, I'll be there in maybe 45 minutes. I guess I got to go pants now.
All right, see ya.
All right.
So
Yeah.
wait, so real quick, so are you going to verify the whole project thing before we apply?
Yeah. Did I forward you that email from whomstever?
Yes, just about the seminars and everything.
I don't know if I have it. If you have the email from the person that sent it, it's Dresden, right?
Yeah.
Goldberg.
Goldberg, yeah.
All right. Let me send, and I'll copy you on to Dresden on this email. When is it due that you have to submit?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Doesn't look like a very long application. I pulled it up. And it's just like we have to write a quick blurb about the project. But yeah, I didn't know.
Let me send a real quick email, okay? And I'll CC you so you get a response. So sit tight. I don't know if you'll get a response today or tomorrow, but just if you sit tight, maybe you'll get something. All right?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Cesar, are you happy?
Yeah, I'm here. Glad to be going back to the lab.
Yes, I believe you can. I believe since you are a master's student of some kind, I put you down as somebody who can go to the lab. I don't know if you're going to get kicked out as being flagged as like some sort of weird hybrid undergrad, but that's something I'm willing to fight. All right. So you are one of the people that I put down that there may or may not be, you may or may not be allowed, but I think it's worth fighting for. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
I received the email, and I mean, I graduated this semester, so I think I classify as graduate now.
Oh, okay. Then definitely you're fine. All right. I even put Al Shaba down if she wants to come. I know it's going to be a bit of a commute, but
Love to, but I can't. Unfortunately, I would love to.
I know. I was doing it late at night, and I forgot that you are now in France, and so
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks already.
yeah, you keep showing up to these things, which I love. I think that's great.
Yeah, I enjoy them.
Good. I hope this was useful too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go exercise my children, and then I gotta get, I guess, to the lab. So I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.